Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction, and welcome back to my channel. It is that time again. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing a giant summer book haul. Alright guys, so I'm going to keep this intro pretty brief because when I say giant, I mean giant book haul. I've actually been really good at not impulsively buying books. That was definitely an issue a few years ago. However, new release fantasy romance is really what's killing me because I pre-order the books, completely forget about them, and then they just show up, and then I end up with a giant fantasy romance book haul. Now, I do have a sprinkle of some contemporary and dark romance that I'll save for the end of this video, but most of the books on this list are new release fantasy romance and romantasy, some from book boxes, some I pre-ordered, some from publishers, but there is a lot. So I will give you a spoiler-free synopsis of every book, and then my overall thoughts if I've read the book already. Now, if you're unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit that notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram, Goodreads, and Patreon, all linked down below. With all that out of the way, let's talk about these books. And first up, we have Broken Souls and Bones by L.J. Andrews. This is the Fairy Loot Special Edition. This was one of my most anticipated releases of the year, and it did not disappoint. I loved this book. It was a little reminiscent of Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, and it has all of these like Viking feels. It was really, really enjoyable. So in the story, we are following Lyra, and she's just trying to live a quiet and peaceful life along with her best friend in this little village. But all of that kind of gets dismantled when Rourke shows up. He is a soldier, and he realizes that Lyra actually holds a secret. She is a meddler, which is something that the king has been coveting. Meddlers have a certain magical ability that other people are kind of lacking. So he ends up taking her to the king, where she is going to train to be the royal meddler, even if it kills her, and there's a bit of a romance, and it's really good. It was darker than I was expecting. The magic was really, really creepy. It deals with bones, and I loved this, and I also didn't really know where the story was headed. There are some interesting characters that you really can't get a good grip on until towards the end of the book, but overall, this was so, so good. So like I said, this is the Fairy Loot Special Edition, and it has those gorgeous end pages, and then it also has gorgeous inside artwork as well, but here is the naked hardback. Again, really pretty. I love the text on this. And then it has this gorgeous inside artwork. I think it's the same on both sides. And then also it comes with a reversible dust jacket. Absolutely gorgeous. And then, like I said, this was one of my most anticipated releases, so I pre-ordered a copy, and this is also really, really pretty for just being like the standard edition. But after I pre-ordered the copy, I was selected to receive an ARC of the book. So this is, actually it's not an ARC, it's just a PR box or a PR edition. But this one is signed, so I will probably keep this edition and give the other one away to one of my patrons. But overall, I loved this. Definitely pick this up if you haven't yet. And next up, we have This Monster of Mine. Apparently, this is an ancient Rome-inspired fantasy romance debut that sounds really, really good. So in this story, we are following a truth-sensing prosecutor who ends up returning to the city where she was once almost murdered in order to find who was trying to kill her. Well, she ends up being assigned to help one of the people she suspects might have been the attempted murderer, and as she gets to know him, she becomes even more sure that he is the one that tried to kill her that night, but also, I believe some feelings begin to develop. So I am really interested. If you read this book, let me know, what do you think? It has really good reviews on Goodreads, and like I said, once again, this is Fairy Loot, so it has those gorgeous sprayed edges. Actually, I love the back of this with the heart, and then the inside, wow. I don't think I ever took the cover off of this. The naked hardback, oh my gosh, it's so pretty. And then once again, and reverse dust jacket. Fairy Loot really is like one of my top book boxes. I would say it's between Fairy Loot and Arcade, but both of them are so good. But another book I cannot wait to read. And next up we have The Wind Weaver. I picked this up after seeing it all over Bookstagram. It is 100% worth the hype. I love this book, 5 stars, one of my top reads of the year. But in this story, we are following Raya, and she is a halfling living in a village where magic is outlawed. So it is discovered that she possesses some magical ability, so before she can be executed, she is saved by the very scary Commander Scythe. Now, he ends up taking her, against her will, to the north, where he informs her that she is actually one of 4 incredibly powerful remnants, these beings that are prophesized to restore balance to the realm, or died trying. And it really goes from there, but this gave me kind of like a Court of Thorns and Roses vibes, also a little bit of like Ren in the Holly Library, but I just love this. I love the romance, I love the magic. It is filled with a lot of tropes that are pretty common in fantasy romance, but they are done very, very well. So please, please pick this up if you haven't yet. And once again, fairy loot. So we have the gorgeous sprayed edges, and then the inside. I actually love this naked hardback. So this is the naked hardback. Really matches like the feathers, and then it has this gorgeous inside artwork. If you can kind of see that. I love this. While I was listening to the audiobook, I was just like staring at those back pictures. And then it is reversible, so this is the original cover, just kind of a different color palette. But I loved this book, so please, please do yourself a favor and pick this up. Next up, we have The Glittering Edge. Now, this is a young adult kind of paranormal fantasy romance. In this story, we are following Penny, who is living in a small town. She's a bit of a wallflower, and she never believed in magic. That is until her mother falls victim to a love curse that has been put upon the town by the founding families. So Penny, who is desperate to save her mother, asks for help from 2 of the descendants from these founding families who happen to be enemies. So these 3 kids together are going to try to break this curse. And it sounds really good. So it has really good reviews on Goodreads. And once again, fairy loot. So here are these sprayed edges. And then I love the reversible dust jacket on this book. I just think it is such a cool art style. So that's the reverse dust jacket. And then, oh, the naked hardback is also really, really cool. So the naked hardback has like a haunted house type vibe to it. And then the inside artwork. So I'm assuming those are the main characters. And ooh, that looks really cool. Wow. Okay, so I will definitely be reading this during spooky season. If you read this, let me know, what did you think? And next up, we have The Floating World by Alex O. Now, I have talked about this book in an anticipated fantasy romance release video, so I'll leave that in the cards and in the description. But I actually love the original cover to this book, and I was a little disappointed when I opened this. But this is a young adult fantasy romance. I don't know very much about this, and the synopsis is a little confusing. I believe we're following a mercenary from like a night realm that goes on a mission to find a girl that possesses a silver light magic. And then we're also following the girl that does possess that magic, but she's keeping it hidden. And I believe she's part of a family of like acrobats. And at one point she needs to reveal her magic in order to save someone. And that kind of sets off a chain of events. Now, I love the original cover to this book, and I was positive that this was going to have a reverse dust jacket that had the original, and it doesn't. I'm assuming it's the original UK cover, which personally, not my vibe. So this is what the outside looks like. Once again, beautiful sprayed edges. And then the inside, this is the naked hardback. Really, really pretty. And then it has this gorgeous inside artwork. But if you just look at this book compared to the US cover, I feel like they give off like such different feels. So overall, this is very, very pretty. And had I not seen the original US cover, I probably wouldn't be as disappointed. I really, really liked that US cover. And last up for Fairy Loot, we have The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig, another one of my most anticipated releases of the year. This is a dark, gothic, adult fantasy romance by an author I love, so I cannot wait to get to this. I actually recently just started, but I'm only a few pages in. So the story is following Sable, who is able to have these like prophetic visions about disasters that are going to occur, and she's granted these visions from ancient gods. Now, when her fellow diviners start going missing, she is forced to team up with this knight who really doesn't believe in her magical abilities, but she is so desperate she will do anything to find her fellow sisters. Now, this is getting very mixed reviews. However, it seems like my patrons are pretty much enjoying this, and I'm liking it so far. I will say the beginning is a lot of world building, but I really enjoy the writing and the overall feel of this book. So I'm very excited to see if I end up loving it. Now, this is, like I said, the Fairy Loot edition. So this artwork, oh my gosh, this is probably one of my favorite Fairy Loot books. And then here is the naked dust jacket, naked hardback. And then beautiful artwork on the inside. And then the reversible dust jacket is the original cover, just with a different color palette. And I also pre-ordered the Barnes & Noble special edition, which I'm now realizing is actually quite heavy for some reason. But this one also is so pretty, and it has these beautiful end pages. And I think it also has artwork on the inside, just that pretty little layout. But I am very surprised. This book is actually very, very heavy. I never compared the two. But anyway, I hope I love this. If you read this, let me know. What did you think? And next up, we have Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. Now, I have a spoiler-free vlog of me reading Shield of Sparrows and Silver Elite that I'll leave in the cards and in the description. I ended up giving this book 3.75 stars. However, it is very, very well loved. So definitely check this out if you haven't yet. I do plan on reading the sequel. If you're unfamiliar with this story, we are following Odessa, and although Odessa is the eldest daughter, she was not raised to rule. Instead, her younger sister is going to become the Sparrow. Essentially, what the Sparrow is a marriage agreement between all of these kingdoms, where the daughter of one kingdom will marry the prince of another kingdom. It's going to foster harmony and peace throughout the kingdoms. So the younger sister has been chosen. However, everything kind of changes when a monster hunter and the prince show up, and the prince decides he actually wants to marry Odessa. So now Odessa is forced to be in this position that she has not trained for and has no knowledge in, and she's an incredibly naive character, which is one of my biggest kind of gripes with the book. But anyway, she is then forced to travel to this new kingdom, and it's a very dangerous kind of journey because there are all of these monsters that are infected with a certain magical kind of illness, and there were a lot of points of this book that I did really enjoy. I thought the monsters and the world were really, really interesting, and I feel like this will be adapted into a movie or TV show very, very well. I can't wait to see what they do. But overall, this was a solid read, so definitely recommend. And next up, we have Silver Elite by Dani Francis. This is an adult dystopian story, and we are following Ren. Now, Ren is an incredibly powerful psychic living in a world that if it was found out that she had these abilities, she would be killed. Well, someone begins to suspect that she might be harboring some secrets, and she is captured and forced into this elite military academy. Now, Ren decides she is going to take this opportunity to try to take this regime down from the inside, but to do so, she has to keep her magical abilities a secret, and it's life or death. So I love this. It is a very fast-paced, just fun story, and I cannot wait to read the sequel. Definitely gave me Fourth Wing and Divergent vibes. So if that plot sounds good to you, definitely recommend picking this up. And next up is a book I have not read yet. However, I am dying for the audiobook to release. I believe it is releasing in July. So, oh my gosh, I am so excited. I've had some friends read this book. Some loved it. Some are not fans of it. So I'm very interested to see where I will fall. But it is Direbound. So I don't know very much about this. I heard it's kind of like Fourth Wing, but instead of dragons, we have wolves. We're following this girl. I believe her name is Marin. And in order to save her sister, she ends up in some sort of deadly trials and is bonded to a wolf or a dire wolf or something along those lines. But I heard it has trials. I believe it's also kind of set in a magical academy. So I've been reading a lot of books that kind of had that academy setting, and I think I love them all. So that might be one of the tropes I need to start looking for in fantasy romance. I love a good trial element or a training montage. Some of my favorites. But anyway, this book has been on my TBR for quite some time, and I cannot wait to read it when the audiobook finally drops in July. And next up we have On Wings of Blood. This is the first book in the Bloodwing Academy series. Now, in the story, we are following Medra, who is a fae who ends up at the start of this in a vampire realm where she is captured and then forced to attend Bloodwing Academy, which is an elite vampire academy, because the vampires that are ruling this realm believe that she might be one of the last dragon riders. And they believe this because she possesses red hair that apparently designates you as being a dragon rider, despite the fact that in this world, dragons have not been seen for hundreds of years. So she has to attend this school, and on top of all of this, she is engaged to be married to one of the most arrogant and pompous vampire guys there is. And he is a complete bully towards her, so this first book is very bully romance. I will also say this book reminded me so much of Zodiac Academy and also a little bit of Harry Potter. There are a lot of elements. There's just a lot of things going on in this book. I am still not sure how I ended up rating it. I'm going to wait until my wrap up to give an official rating. But there's just a lot. There's a lot happening. We have dragons, vampires, fae, and just a lot. I keep saying that. I don't know how else to describe it. But overall, I will be reading the sequel to this because I was invested enough in the story. I would also like to point out this book is a spin-off from another series. So if you start this book and you feel confused, you are not alone. I was very confused until I realized that we actually are introduced to these characters in another series. So just know that going in. But overall, I do recommend. And next up, we have A Thorn in Every Heart. This is a Beauty and the Beast reimagining following Alex. So Alex is a down-on-her-luck musician, and she ends up moving to her grandmother's kind of rundown Appalachian town, and soon after she gets there, she has a one-night stand that quickly turns otherworldly. Turns out her grandmother broke a deal to a fae king, and now our main character has to pay the price. And the story goes from there. But I am so excited to pick this book up. I'm still waiting for the audiobook, but I received this physical book from the nerdy PR company. So thank you guys so much for sending this my way. I absolutely loved the artwork that came with this book. It was super steamy. So another book I cannot wait to read. And next up, Bloom sent me Can You Take It, which I'm pretty sure is the final book in the Infatuated Fae series that starts with How Does It Feel? Now, I'm not caught up on the series. I think I'm 2 books behind, but everyone I know who's read the most recent book has given it 5 stars or 4.5 stars. So I need to read it ASAP. But if you're unfamiliar with the series, we are following this girl that when she was very young, she believed she saw a fae, and because of this, she became obsessed with creatures with wings. Now she's an adult studying endangered moths, and while searching for said moth, she accidentally falls into the Unseelie Fae court, where she is immediately almost killed many times by the prince of the Unseelie court. And it's their romance. It's addicting. It's great. Very similar vibes to Fortuna Sworn, but one of my favorites. So thank you so much, Blue. And next up, we have Enigma by RuNyx. I am so mad I have not picked this book up yet. My TBR is out of control, but this is another one of my most anticipated releases of the year. Now, I'm a little nervous because this is getting mixed reviews. Most of the negative reviews I've been seeing are saying that the romance isn't really at the forefront and it's more like romantic suspense. But I love romantic suspense, so even if that's the case, I'm okay with it. I don't know very much about this. It's been described as a scorching Hades and Persephone dark academia kind of story, so all of that sounds good. I know we are following a girl that goes to a very creepy, isolated university, and her sister actually went missing at said university. So now she's trying to uncover what exactly happened, and she catches the attention of a teaching assistant who also is harboring a lot of dark secrets that he would prefer her not to uncover. So I'm assuming it's a romance between the two of them. I read Gothicana by RuNyx a few years ago, and it was one of my top reads of the year, so I cannot wait to pick this up. And next up, we have Releasing 10 by Chloe Walsh. This is the 6th book in the Boys of Tone series, one of my favorite series ever written. I love this series, and when I received this arc, I lost my little mind. I saw that email, and I flipped out. So I also pre-ordered the Ombre Spine edition, so it matches the rest of my books. But let me tell you, this book is so incredibly good. It's actually up there. It's a tie with my top book of the year so far between this and Blood Over Brighthaven, and then after that I kind of go by genre. It is an incredibly difficult read. So know that going in, it is very, very heavy. And after I discuss the plot of this book and my overall thoughts, I am going to get into a little bit of the controversy and everything that's being discussed. So if you want to skip that, I will have timestamps down below. I know not everyone wants to listen to my opinion and they want to talk about books, and that is okay. So in this story, the Boys of Tommen series, this book in particular, we are following Lizzie and Hugh. Now, how the Boys of Tommen series works is the first 2 books are following one couple, the next 2 books are following another couple, the 5th book is a standalone for some reason, and then this book is part of another, 2 set. So do not go into this book expecting an HAA. If you do, you will be like me, and you will be incredibly disappointed. This book is just sadness. Amazing sadness, but it is very, very upsetting. So in the story, like I said, we were following Lizzie, who we're introduced to in the previous books, and she feels emotions very, very deeply. She's diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and it's really just following Lizzie as she kind of grapples with that and is trying to fit in with her friends and her classmates while really feeling like an outsider internally. And then you're following Hugh, who is the older brother of Lizzie's best friend, who immediately is just like, that's my girl, I love her, I'm gonna protect her, and watching him do everything in his power to just love this girl who is very hard to love, and not that she is trying in any way, it's just the circumstances and everything surrounding them, and you will root for this couple so, so hard, and I love Lizzie as a character. I think she might actually beat Aoife for me from this series, which I didn't think anyone was beating Aoife. Let's be serious. I love Joey and Aoife. Oh my God. But Huey and Lizzie are definitely a close second. Now, getting into kind of the controversy and things surrounding this book, I'm going to try to do this without getting too upset because I've already filmed this once and I failed miserably. I saw the reel or the Instagram post that Chloe Walsh did where she was explaining not why she wrote this book, but kind of explaining her take on this book and the fact that she felt the need to do that, knowing that she is an incredibly private person. That was the only time I saw her face, ever. It was so upsetting, and it was the first time I really felt not let down, but just felt almost embarrassed by this community, and that is not a feeling I have ever felt before. The fact that we were attacking this author that poured so much of herself, her soul, her struggles into a story, and we made her feel so uncomfortable that she thought to go online and explain her reasoning. These are incredibly upsetting books. If you read any of the prior books going into this series, you would know they are very hard reads, dealing with incredibly upsetting topics, for the most part, that are handled so well. I've never read a book that tackled bipolar disorder the way that Chloe Walsh was able to do it in this book, and it was just eye-opening. And I feel like this is very chaotic, but we should not be attacking authors for everything they do. If you have an opinion and you did not like this book, that is fine. You are allowed to not like everything that comes out. But I don't understand the people that realize what was in this book and decided to keep reading. If you know you are triggered by something and something makes you uncomfortable, stop reading the book and stop attacking the author for writing the book. So I know people are going to have very strong opinions to what I just said, I'm sure, but those are my thoughts when it comes to this. I thought this series and this book in particular was so well done. I don't think I cried as much reading a book as I did with this, and definitely check the trigger warnings. Make sure it is something you're okay reading. It's not going to be for everyone. I almost DNF'd this book at a point. I thought it might be too hard for me to get through because it was just hitting certain topics that I hadn't seen explored in a book. So know that going in, it is a very tough book to read, but overall, I love this, and I will recommend this if you check the triggers and you know you're comfortable going in. And next up, I have 2 mafia romances from Lilith Vincent. So first up, we have Fear Me, Love Me. I love this book so much. It is bonkers in the best way, but the plot of this is so unhinged. It's a labyrinth reimagining. So we're following this girl that after saving her baby brother from a high-powered mafioso who lives in the town, that mafioso becomes obsessed with our main character and really wants to put a baby inside her. Like, that is described many times. And he begins kind of stalking her and making her life hell, but it's already kind of hell because her parents treat her terribly, and really the only one she cares about is her baby brother, who is constantly put in danger. So overall, I love this book, highly recommend, especially if you like Labyrinth reimaginings. Now the other one is Brutal Conquest. I don't know anything about this book except for the fact that I'm pretty sure this is the second book in the series. I think this is part of a trilogy by Lilith Vincent. So I know it's Mafia. I have to do a little research to see if, I guess you can read the books as standalones, because I'm not sure why we would get a second book in a series if that wasn't the case. But let me know if you've read this. Can I read this without reading the first, or do I need to read like the entire series? And next up, I have 2 books by Rina Kent. So first up, we have God of War. I actually picked this up at Barnes & Noble's when I went out to brunch with my friend Gloria. We met for the first time at a Polygon, and we pretty much hung out all of a Polygon, so thank you so much, Gloria. And then we grabbed brunch and then went to Barnes & Noble. So this was the only book that I purchased, but I love this series so much. This is the last book in the Legacy of the Gods series. Now, I will say this book has a very different feel from the rest of the Legacy of the Gods. They all take place within the same timeline. This one actually takes place later, and it was a very interesting romance, but overall, very solid. And then next up is Beautiful Venom. I received this from Bloom, and I was very excited because I think Rina Kent might be my favorite dark romance author. I have been binging her backlist, and something about her books, they're just so addicting. But this is a dark hockey romance with secret society vibes. It's the first in a trilogy, I believe, so cannot wait for the next book to release. All right, guys, that is it for my giant summer book haul. Thank you so much for watching. And I'd like to say a special thank you to my Paladin protectors, Amanda, Christy, Kat, Lada, Leslie, Nerdy, Spoon, and the Sarandrea family. Thank you guys so much for supporting my channel. It means so much to me. And I said this already, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. And if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week. Bye.